Good morning, everyone. This is Thea by herself. I've been abandoned by Lisa. Actually, everything is fine with Lisa, just so you know. She's not here because she's literally going on vacation. Nothing to do with being ill or anything like that. She is doing well at home and checking in once in a while. We may even see her here in the chat group. She's fine. But she really needed a rest, and I can understand that because I've just been doing her job for the last week. Well, almost her job. The way I do Lisa's job is to do as little as possible to create no damage. So if you're watching, Lisa, just know that there's plenty of stuff for you to do tomorrow. Oh, no, not tomorrow. No, you're not coming back till Tuesday, right? Sorry. I keep hoping that you'll come back sooner. Anyway, it looks like there's a bunch of people here already, which is great because my comments are working. I've now reboot my computer every time I start one of these, which has been a good reason to, I usually keep my computers on overnight so that they can, be updated or whatever. So I'm really glad to hear that now my comments are always there because I really needed them today. Kathy Joan is here. Wanda's here. Good morning. Trisha's here. Lovely. And Lisa, you're there. Good. So I wasn't talking to no one. And then Sandy is here. Hello. Donna's here already. Wonderful. Elizabeth, you're here. I think you're in New York, aren't you, Elizabeth? Kathy Bird, hello. Good to see you. And it looks like Loretta's here. Patty is here. And you will be in on Monday, but I'm not telling anyone you're here on Monday because then they'll start calling you on Monday. See, now you've given it away. You want to have a day where you can just get back to normal or at least, get some of the stuff done that I didn't get done. Anyway, it looks to me like, oh, hello, Marion. Good to see you. Welcome to all of you who are just coming on board. Thank you very much for being here with me. And I will continue to reassure everyone that no, Lisa's fine. She's just on holidays this week. And usually, actually, she comes in. But this time she said, I am exhausted. I need the whole week. But she'll pipe in once in a while and say hello, I'm sure. So today, I get to talk to you about lots of things. But unfortunately, I don't have my partner here, my cohort. And so I can't really, bandy. All I can do is tell you stuff and ask you stuff. So hopefully that'll be a fine time for all of you. Thank you, Serena. I appreciate it. Jennifer Washburn is here. Emma Knotts is here. Welcome. And it looks like, yes, she's home for her last vacation day. Thank you, Lisa. Sally is here. Good morning. Thank you. Carol, good day from upstate New York where it's finally sunny. Oh, good to hear. Cynthia is here. Louise Fossa is here. I'm so glad so many of you come to say hello and just come and watch and take part because really that's what it's all about. The reason that we started doing the live videos, Lisa and I, is because we never really get to talk to a lot of our customers. If you work in a shop, and people come in, you get to talk to everybody. So we kind of thought it would be really fun, even if it's not a two-way conversation with verbally, we could at least chat together once a week. And we've been doing this now for 2 years, or almost 2 years. And we have loved every single second of it because you give us so much feedback in the chat part or the comments part of a live video. And that's what makes all the difference to us. So if you haven't said anything yet, said meaning that I get to read your comments, then we kind of feel like you're there, but you're not really there. So say something, for goodness sake. We'd just love to hear from you. And looks like Heather Hopkins is here. MJ Bummel is here. Hello from the Netherlands. Good morning from sunny Atlanta and from hot sunny Florida. So Jean and Marge are here. Mary Widrowitz is here from Iowa. Well, it sounds like most of you are getting better weather, which was good because I think it was last week that you had snow somewhere back east. It really sounded terrible. Did you say 3 years, Lisa? I thought it was only 2 years. Well, that's obviously time flies when you're having fun because we really have had a lot of fun doing these things. So glad, Carla, that you're enjoying the small samplers. And of course, some of them are samplers. A couple of them were Biscornu, I remember. These two last ones were samplers. They were for me, it's a wonderful format to divide up, right? Otherwise, you have to kind of judge and see, well, how much can you do per week? But the 2 samplers, thank you so much. I'm glad you like the free pattern stitch along. Awesome. And Milady is here. Jennifer Gowan is here. I started my first project in nearly a year. I had to do a lot of frogging, started over 4 times. I'm sure my sister Karen is looking down from heaven laughing at me, since she used to depend on me to help her. Well, we think about your sister quite a bit actually around here. So I'm really glad that you continue to keep her alive while you're stitching, because in your mind, I'm sure she is laughing at you, and she's laughing with you as well. I'm sure she loves you dearly. Carla says, from Missouri, I think, 71, pouring rain. Oh dear. Hello from Alberta. Hi, Petra, you're here. It looks like Kathy James lives in Alberta. I didn't know that. That is so good to hear where you're coming from. Mary Hawthorne is here. Susan Droho is here. Ah, you have to bring Emily to work. Oh, I'm sure Emily is enjoying it. Debbie Knoll is here from Camrose. Wow, there's a couple of 3 people from Alberta, it sounds like. Could you please talk about the red and green pieces on the wall behind you? Each have 4 squares, and I have not seen them before. I think that's, well, there, those 2, right? This one and this one. I was looking at my monitor to make sure that my finger was pointing at the right pieces, Carol. Those are wall hangings, and they are really beautifully finished with quilt cottons, etc. But the designs on them, the 4 designs, I believe are our Beyond Cross Stitch level 6, and they are advanced hardanger pieces. So there are some cutting out to do in each one of them. And if you are quite good at hardanger, that's something that you could just pick up. But we are working very hard to create the classes and the courses for those Beyond Cross Stitch kits. So if you want to, you can have a look. Go to Beyond Cross Stitch level 6 on our website, and you'll be able to find those. Sarah Campbell says, hi Thea, Sunny here in Wellfleet, Massachusetts. Oh, and Carol, if you had any other questions about them, let me know, or email us, and we'll be happy to let you know where they are and a little bit more about them. You know, that kind of puts me in mind of one of the subjects that I had for today was talking about special stitches, or sampler stitches, I call them. But we'll talk about that in a little while. What I first wanted to talk about, besides saying hello to everyone, was is masks. Have you guys done any masks? Now, I didn't want to talk about masks to begin with when this thing first started all over the world, but I haven't even made my mask. I feel so embarrassed because, you know, I'm supposed to be some needle woman who does, you know, cuts things out and, you know, puts things, but I've never actually done very well on a sewing machine. I have to have Lisa here to change my bobbin. So I have not sewn any masks yet. But those of you who have, it would be really interesting to find out if you used any linen on the masks, so that, you know, you'd embroider something, or even some Aida, some scraps of some sort that you can wash easily, because Aida is made of cotton. And I was just curious to know if you had, and if you had embroidered anything on the front, like, you know, a nice little saying, hi there, or you can't see my mouth from here, or something like that. Anyway, I'm only laughing because I am so poor at these kinds of things. It's just an interesting thing during this chat. And obviously, you're not going to be posting masks on the masks you made on this group, because that's not what this is all about. But I did want to know, just briefly, if you guys have done any masks at all, if you've made any, and if you've given them away, and how many have you given away? And I just love to hear on this chat only about what you've done with masks at all, if any of you have done anything. There you go. Donna has made 200 masks. Are you kidding me? That's amazing. Well, obviously you know how to sew, unlike me. Aw. Yes, I know Kathy Jones. She does miss me, and I miss her. We have been working together for so long. It's awful when she goes. The worst part is, though, that I have to do her job, and I don't know her job very well, and I find that she works too hard as it is, so now I'm working too hard. Rita Weinberg, hello, hello. Really good to see you. Wanda says, I've never done hardanger until Thea's wisteria pattern, and the pattern was so well written I had the confidence to cut. Well, isn't that amazing? I find that if you have the confidence to cut, you can actually do Hardanger. And the confidence to cut comes from practicing on something. I mean, you can practice on the directly on the design, and I'm really glad the directions were that good for you, Wanda. But also, I think you can practice on scraps. Like I practiced, I don't know how many times on a whole bunch of scraps of linen. I would make my cluster blocks correctly, and then I would start cutting. And because it didn't matter to me, because it was on a doodle cloth or whatever you call a scrap piece of linen, I just felt that I had nothing to lose. It was just a piece of linen. It wasn't all the stitching I had done before that. So for me, I had to practice too. And I really want you guys to know that if you are thinking about continuing on with Hardanger, which is so fun and makes your pieces look so professional and so complicated, and therefore impressive, if you are going to do more Hardanger, I really recommend that you take one of our courses, which are coming up, but also buy some of the Beyond Cross Stitch kits, because they teach you, each of the kits has color photos and lots of diagrams, black and white diagrams. I'm not sure if level 5 has color photos, but level 6 definitely does. And when you do take that, you get a little more confidence all the time. So there are some YouTube videos that I've got, but I'm also going to be releasing the Introduction to Hardanger as a course in our academy soon. So that should be coming up next week. Yay! And let's see what else. Sunny here in Wellfleet, says Sarah Campbell. Hello. And Tricia. Okay. Donna Granger said, oh yes, she made 200. Thank you, Jennifer Gowan. You're always so complimentary. I'm doing a great job on my own. It's not the same as having Lisa here, but thank you. And Elaine is here. Hello, Elaine. And Elaine, your stitching is awesome. Tammy says, I made masks for my family, just used printed cottons for ours. Yeah, I think making it just for your family means that it's not a donation necessarily, but it is something nice that you can do that you can all partake in. Carla says, I did 285 masks. I don't know what an extension is, but wow. Springfield is just opening second phase, and maybe a quarter people use them. Some I did use batiks. Ooh, they must really look beautiful. Lisa says, I was planning on making masks over my vacation, so she hasn't made any yet. Feeling very relaxed though. See, that's your main thing. Oh, and this is one that was donated by our Whole Foods Market. So I was really glad to get this one. It's my precious only mask that I wore yesterday, because guess what I got? I got my nails done. Yes, this is our phase 2. Yay! So my nails are now whole again. It took I think it was over 2 months. And the nail person only had me in and 2 other people. She says, I didn't want to have a big rush, so I just got you in because you called. And I did. I called about a week ago wondering when they were going to open. So yay, one thing is done. Hair is still big and bushy, but not too bad. If I can brush it and just, make it so that it's not like lying flat. I have to pretty much style it every morning to make it look half decent. But, it's just hair. And luckily, as a girl, you could have longer hair and nobody worries about it. So, but I'm looking forward to getting my hair done. Apparently, that'll be June 15th in our second phase. No embroidery on hers, says Donna. Not even the ones for the family. Yeah, I can see your point. I mean, I can understand making them. They are very important, and they can be a fashion statement. But embroidery, I think that's probably going a bit far, especially if you have to wash them all the time. I'm making fabric surgical caps for work. Way to go, Elaine, because you're going to need that going back to the dental office. Are you by any chance opening soon? Just curious. Carmen says, sewed up 200. What is it with you? You are making so many. I am so impressed with those of you who have made them at all. Never mind making so many. Nancy says, I made for the family. Yeah, that would be my speed, and that would be 2 people. I have ordered a couple, but they're still coming in June. I know. I'm so lazy about making masks on my sewing machine. For now, I have made cotton masks, and for my family and my son's co-workers. That's really nice, Mary. I know that your son would probably really appreciate it. Kathy's made masks for her family, have not used them, etc., because fibers are not close enough to catch germs. Close. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So you need the linen, like that you would stitch on, and then you'd need probably another layer, and then a filter, and then another layer, right? So that would mean like 3 major layers. I can see that, Kathy. That doesn't make any sense either. Hello, Noor. Hello, it's really nice to see you, and thank you for saying something in the chat group. It's very nice to talk to you. Heather Hopkins said, I made 14 masks with printed cotton, no embroidery, for the family. Well, I'm really glad to hear that you are making masks, and so many of you are making masks. Not making them with embroidery is probably a smart idea. So I could imagine maybe making one for like when you're going out to the ball or when you're going out to a restaurant. Oh, I heard of some restaurant that opened somewhere, I think it was in the States, where they had shower curtains, those clear shower curtains between each table. I'm sorry, I had to laugh. Nice ambiance. Anyway, for myself and close friends, I broke out a sewing machine that I was given as a gift but had been too scared to try and use. Beginner sewer, but so many videos out there made it easy. Way to go, Heather. Okay, you beat me for sure, because I'm in your camp. I can sew, but mainly just to put the linen on my roller bars. That's the extent of all my sewing. Patty's made some for the family, but they got the good ones, so they use them. So those are the 3M ones, I guess. Kathy Jones says, I haven't made any masks. I did send material to a friend and then some dollars to another friend, and they both sent me a few masks. Well, that's awesome. That's a good way to contribute. If they didn't have the materials or the cash, then obviously that they could owe you that. So that's great. Actually, I did give a whole bunch of material and all my elastics to a 14-year-old girl down the street who was working here for a while. And she was at loose ends. And so she asked for some donation, and I gave her that. So at least I did my bit that way. Louise has also played around with 5 different versions. Rachel has done a few. We have to wear them or we get fined. Oh, is that right? Rachel is in Israel, everyone. So that's a different country and they have different rules. We in Canada, or particularly in British Columbia, ours are still suggested, but now they're really saying really suggested, like really suggested. So I thought, well, I better get used to the idea of getting some. I've made about 100, says Rita, and given most away to family and friends. Oh, that's so nice that you got some for the parents of babies in a NICU. Oh, I won't be needing mine for 10 since I just tested positive and will be quantified. Whoa, you have very mild symptoms? Excellent, Rita. You know what? Having had it's kind of, obviously mild symptoms, yes. But that must make you feel like, well, at least I've had it, right? Because those of us who have not, or think that we haven't, and we might be carrying them or whatever, some of us kind of go, well, I don't know how we'd get, do that. So I'm really glad to hear that your symptoms are so mild. And you're here, Rita, so thank you for joining. You make us feel better. And hopefully you're going to feel better much, much sooner. Thea gives great details for cutting and stitching hardanger, says Jennifer Gowan. Thank you. Lisa's diagrams, and I have to say these are all Lisa's diagrams and her instructions, but also my videos. So between the two of us, we really try to teach people getting started on hardanger, and we're going to really have fun with the new videos. Brenda Wilson says, I picked the fabric to match the person. That's kind of fun. Susan says, I haven't made any, but my daughter's been sewing masks. She's made about 1,200 masks. Whoa. Honestly, the people who are sewing masks are the heroes, in my opinion, because every mask they sew might not always get used, but if they are, they're going to help. So way to go. Tell your daughter we love her for sewing all those masks. Sylvia says, hi there. Hello. Rachel says, Susan, how many? Carol says, oh, good. I would love to take your upcoming hardanger class. Yes. Susan says she just wants to do what she can to help people. And I think that is something that we all kind of go into that category, particularly as caring women and as people who are doing things with our hands, these are the kinds of things that make us feel like we're contributing. It's great. My area is still in phase 3, says Loretta. So that sounds like it's further along than ours. And hello from rainy South Dakota. She's made 30 masks, says Janet. Rita Weinberg says embroidery means holes. Ah, you're so smart. I never even thought of that. I guess obviously because I haven't made any. I'm looking forward to having my nails and hair done, hopefully soon. Yeah, Lisa, you can just call the nails thing in Sydney. They'd be glad to take your appointment. So, you know, if you want to get them done, at least your nails, you could get that done. I'm pretty sure. Elaine says urgent patients only for the next 2 weeks. Sounds good. I'm not in any hurry. I'm just looking out for you, actually, just worrying about you. Thanks, Elaine. Sylvie says, I cut my own hair 2 days ago. Not bad, really. Desperate times. And I got better at cutting Richard's hair. Like in the back, you know, you just like, okay. I didn't know how to do it at first. And I remember people like combing, using the rat tail, if your rat tail comb, combing a section that's kind of like this. And then you hold it in your hand. No, hold it between your 2 fingers and then you cut along. Well, that didn't work at all. And then I tried just snipping, you know, kind of jaggedly along the back. And that was okay, a little bit better actually. And then last time I got it really wet. And then I took the comb. First of all, I cut around the bottom, which I know you're not supposed to do, but I don't know what else to do. And I don't have, you know, one of those razor things. And then I started cutting up, holding my comb underneath and letting the hairs go through the comb like that, and then cutting it next to the comb. That worked a lot better. So, you know, maybe I'll take some classes and I'll get good at cutting men's hair because it actually looks pretty good this time. I said to him, aren't you going to get your hair cut? Shouldn't you make your appointment? He says, no, what do I have to do that? You do a great job. I thought, okay, you haven't actually examined the back, have you? Anyway, Carol says her friend has made 700 masks. Oh my goodness, you guys. I think that, yeah, oh, lace overlays for weddings? Are you kidding? That sounds so nice. See, we could do the lace overlays. Definitely in Hardanger, right? That would be so lacy and cute, or pulled thread. Okay, overlays. That's what I'm going to call mask overlays. Embroidered mask overlays. Costco is mandatory, says Kathy Joan. She says, I'm good with. Yeah, absolutely. New York State is mandated. Okay, we haven't actually got mandates here, but we do have strong suggestions. And I think it is going to get more important as strictures are loosened, because as things are loosened up, more people get together, you're going to have much more difficult time staying away from more people, especially in public transport, etc. So yeah, it's really recommended, but a lot of businesses now have bought their supply of masks, whereas right from the beginning, how many people could get masks? You couldn't get, you know, lotion, you couldn't get masks, nothing. So anyway, yeah, Rita, you're absolutely right. I am going to answer Jennifer. Is there a way to use the sewing method with linen on a scroll frame? Seems too tight to use the sewing method, which I prefer. The best way to use it on a scroll frame, Jennifer, no matter what sewing method you use, no matter what embroidery you are stitching, if you're using the sewing method, which I do, as you know, quite a bit, first of all, I have the other hand, whether you're left or right-handed, my undominant hand is my other hand. I put that behind the linen and I push the linen forward. I almost always do that when it's, you know, taut on the frame. I also don't have my linen that taut. So just so you know, there's a little bit, enough play so that my hand can pull the linen towards me and I can do a sewing method, either right to left or left to right. So that seems to be pretty easy. However, when it comes to things like satin stitches, I don't usually use the sewing method. I use the poke and pull, because if you've seen satin stitches at all, they have to lie flat, right? So if you're using the sewing method, you don't give them a chance to unfurl. So your sewing method for satin stitching will end up with a satin stitch that's kind of a little bit higher. It bumps out from the fabric more, and you'll cause yourself to bunch it in, so the fabric on either side will leave holes. So I don't usually use the sewing method for satin stitching, which is not what you asked. But if it's hardanger, for instance, I will poke and pull those satin stitches or those cluster blocks as much as I can to get them to lie flat. However, if, for instance, there's hem stitching or anything like that, instead of just holding it forward, I loosen it off a tiny bit, just a tiny bit with the scroll frame. So I hope that kind of helps you. It kind of, I agree with you. Using a sewing method is fast, but it's also, you have to have some tension in your linen, but not as much as maybe you have because you say it's too tight. So loosen it off a little bit, okay? And I am going to continue to read. Yeah, exactly. Everybody's wishing you well, Rita. Our border with Canada at the Thousand Islands will remain closed. Yes, that's right. And our border between us and Washington State is closed. And I believe they're going to keep doing that. Everybody's going to stay behind their borders for a while longer. Some areas are better than others, etc. Oh, I'm sorry, Loretta. That's too bad. I hope that it moves soon. Linda Marchand says, hi, 80 here is in Maine. 80 degrees, yay! That sounds really good. Over here it is maybe 55 and overcast, so we're not having a summer yet. I've been cutting my own hair since I was about 12 years old. I learned to layer it watching professionals. Exactly. That's all I'm doing on YouTube is just watching, Tammy. But, you know, watching and doing is different. So I'm getting better, though. Thanks, Lisa. Yes, Petra, absolutely. Mask overlays. I think that is a nice idea. I agree with you. And when I read that, that you have to have them at weddings, that makes total sense, right? I was able to get hair cut this week in Nebraska. Yay! For short hair, you can buy a Flowbee. I had mine from early 80s and gave it away 2 years ago when I moved. I don't know what a Flowbee is, but it's funny. I always do embroidery in a frame or hoop, but looser when cutting and wrapping. Exactly, Rachel. I think you've got it. So that concludes our talk about masks. Just so you know, I'm really impressed with you all, and thank you for giving away so many. I'm making sure your family stays well and everyone else does too. So this is my little interlude. This is the little guy that sits in my desk. He is definitely a frog, which has a lot of meanings in needlework, but he is definitely meditating. And that's one of the things that I do, not as often as I'd like, but I do it on a regular basis to keep myself kind of not in check, but to keep myself calm and somewhat rational and to handle all of the issues. So I recommend meditating very much. My little friend reminds me. I wanted to show him to you guys. I got him from Sue Donnelly years and years ago when I told her I meditated, and she always gave me a gift when I came to teach for her, and that was one of the gifts. This was another gift I got. This is really quite cute. I keep it because it bolsters my confidence, okay? But not because I am this. Underneath it says, because superhero is an official job title. Well, thank you for that. And whoever gave this to me, you will always have my grateful thanks, because this is really one of my favorite little signs that I have on my desk. And speaking of teaching, which I am in the process of getting together for next week, now that I've got my nails done, I can do it. How many of you regularly stitch with special stitches or sampler stitches? And how do you like doing them? Are there some that you go, ugh, I don't want those? And do you find them easy? Sampler stitching is not usual. In other words, it's more than cross stitching, right? So cross stitching is one stitch with the back stitch involved. But when you're doing all of these sampler stitches in my designs, there's a lot of education, there's a lot of learning that goes on. And I was curious if you would feel excited about maybe teaching needlework to people, especially sampler stitch needleworks. In other words, describing and teaching specialty stitches to others in your area, for instance. I was just curious if it was something that you'd ever thought about doing, because I love doing it, But I was curious to know if those of you who are doing sampler stitches enjoy it, and those of you who are not very familiar or confident with your sampler stitches, is that something that you want to learn a little bit more about? That's all. So it's just a subject that I'd like to hear. I get lots of answers here. Look, look, look. Love your frog. I do too. Rip it, rip it. He's cute. Exactly. That's it. Amazon has flow bees. It is cutter that has a hose and attaches to the vacuum. Oh, really? A hedger for hair. I'm going to get one of those. Thank you for, sharing your knowledge of flow bees. I had no idea, Kathy. Thank you. Wanda says, I do. I love them. I do too. I love that sign. Thank you, Lisa. Carol says, I do, and I love them. And we're now talking about sampler stitches or specialty stitches. So many of you already love them. I love most specialty stitches, but not the queen stitch. Okay, well, that's one that you could probably learn a little something about, because queen stitches can be just as much fun as the others as long as you use the sewing method. Because if you poke and pull and poke and pull, sometimes the queen stitch has got way too many stitches in it to get anywhere, right? Often, says Rachel, I love your stitches. Great. Thank you. I love specialty stitches, and I've always hated cross stitch. Oh, Trisha, the cross is just one more specialty stitch. A cross stitch actually by itself, I find also very nice because you get little patterns, but somehow the specialty stitches and the sampler stitches, they enhance the cross stitch. They don't take away from it, they enhance it. So when I've seen older samplers, especially done by, schoolgirls, I look at some of these amazing motifs, and they're like flowers that are completely complicated, all cross stitch, but done on 45, count fabric or linen, or or really intricately colored. Honestly, I just am so impressed. But along with those, there are always some kind of sampler stitches to show that the person who has learned these things and how to do them also knows how to do other stitches besides just the cross stitch. So I'm with you, Trisha. I love sampler stitches, but I also like cross stitches depending on how much is used. Donna says, I love all stitches. The more complicated, the better. Donna, you do such a good job too. Milady says, I used to teach in our EGA chapter years ago. Really? So you're a teacher already, in effect. You have done them before. When I first started teaching in classrooms, etc., I had to draw on the board or on the whiteboard. I brought in a big frame that was big enough so that people could see. They still didn't see it very well because I had this huge honking needle that I would have to put through, and it would fall on the floor and would come out of its big I had, very thick wool that was, anyway, teaching people from the front of the classroom was very difficult. And then I would bring people to the front of the classroom, and about 6 or less at a time. 6 people from the classroom would come, and they would lean over my shoulders while I was doing stitching on 28 count, showing people carefully, slowly how to do things. But then I'd have to show them again and again, because there was more than 6 people, but only 6 people could see. And they'd be right here while I was doing this. Honestly, I used to sweat bullets, and not because I didn't like doing it, but after about the 4th or 5th time in a large class, it's tiring to do it, and it's scary because you can make mistakes that they can see. And anyway, so that's why I love now being able to teach once on the video, and everyone can see it really clearly, and now it's available online, which is wonderful. Milady, we'll have to talk about your teaching. Carla says, I've done a lot of needlepoint too. Exactly. Needlepoint stitches can be used on linen, as are linen stitches also used on canvas. However, canvas lends itself to certain kinds of stitching, very, very how can I put it, very careful, structured stitching. Whereas linen is a little more pliable and a lot more possible for pulled stitches and also cut work. Carol says, I would love to share my craft with anyone. Carol, that's such a good That's actually the main motivator for a teacher. You've said it, really. I think it would be really fun to do actually to do a class for teachers of needlework. Don't you think? Because there's so many things you have to know how to do. Like if we did a class for needlework, how to teach needlework, maybe some of you would be very interested. You could do this at home. Anyway, it just occurred to me I could talk about that forever. Anyway, Jennifer says, I love using fancy stitches. Oh, that's another way to talk about them. Fancy stitches. Nice. I learned them all from you and taught my sister a lot of them. Well, you were obviously wanting to share that immediately with your dear sister, so that makes a lot of sense to me. Heather Hopkins says, I have cross stitch for years and I'm only just starting with the more elaborate stitching. I love it and I want to do more. So nice to hear, Heather. Very, very happy to hear that, because that's exactly what I want to do. I want to share more. So we're we're two sides of the same coin. Tammy says, I used to teach specialty stitches when I was active in the SCA, a medieval reenactment group. Ah, I've heard of those. Sounds like really a lot of fun. Louise likes specialty stitches because she likes variety. Louise, you're absolutely right. Crosses are crosses, and you make a lot of them, and then what? So the actual mechanics of doing some of the fancy stitches or sampler stitches really is intriguing to me. How did people come up with these ideas, and what is their background of all these stitches? I find that really fascinating. So you're right, variety, spice of life. Marie Anique says, I love them. Thank you. Bonsoir. I'm sorry, Marie Anique. Bonjour or bonsoir. It's very nice to see you. And Lisa says, there's a couple that I avoid, says Lisa, about stitches. And you know what? There's one that I avoid with a passion. I avoid, and I shouldn't really, I avoid the little, what do you call the little circle? In Hardanger. Now I can't even think of it. I can't think of the name. You know why? Because I'm avoiding it. Lisa, you'll remember what the name of that stitch is that I hate. And I think you don't like them either. Why can't I think of the name of it? Well, anyway, Linda does love specialty stitches, especially queen stitches. You have all sorts of different kinds of stitches that you can do. And queen is just one of them, right, Linda? I like them because they, again, give a lot of variety. Oh, I remember the name of the stitch. Picots. Won't do them, won't design with them. I did it once, that's it. They are too unpredictable. It depends entirely on the thread that you're using. If you use a lot of them in a doily or something, and you stitch them that way, that's great. But for my samplers, everything to me has to look very good. And those darn picots, they don't predict, they don't lie flat when I want them to. Carla says, I belong to a needlework club that does many specialty stitches and projects. That's awesome. I don't know of any club, but I guess it's much like a guild, right? You get together and discuss things and do them together. Elaine says, I've done specialty stitches for years, and she has taught a few friends. Oh, so you've got quite the long history in needlework. Awesome. We'll have to talk. Sandy says, a few years back, I taught a sampler needlework class to the local EGA. You did enjoy it. You like teaching. That's really good to hear, Sandy, because I think that this is one of the things that so many of us can do this to spread more knowledge of needlework in the world. I mean, yes, cross stitch is awesome. Yes, more people do cross stitch than any other. But to expand your needlework world into various other stitches just brings history back into our lives, and it also promotes and moves all those stitches into the future so other people can enjoy doing them and doing different things with them. That sounds really interesting, Sandy. Kathy Jones says, I'm not competent in specialty stitches, but I'm always open to learning more. My favorite student. Now, that doesn't mean you're not competent at the stitches that you already know how to do, but it does mean, and this is the best part about learning fancy stitches, sampler stitches, whatever you call them, you're open to learning more rather than closed. No, I don't want to do it. No, you can't make me. So keep yourself open, and then you can enjoy. Not just the stitching, but the sharing with others. Just like you're saying, I love teaching people how to crochet and to cross stitch. See, you're already sharing like crazy. And Jennifer also would love to learn more stitches so she could share with others. Kathy Birds also doesn't like picots or your downfall. I don't know about you, but the things that I don't know how to do very well, they become my unfavorite things. So maybe it's a question of, like before I said, practice, practice, practice. I don't know, Kathy, maybe we should, do a whole bunch of them, a whole bunch of picots and really get it down. Marty, you're here. I was wondering where you were. I haven't seen you for in this group for such a long time, and here you are. And I know you love special stitches, and you do such a good job of them. It's really nice to see that your face is here again. Thank you for coming. Mary says, I love sampler stitching. Doing all of the specialty stitches is what keeps my interest. Yeah, because there's a variety, right? A friend of my mother's was left-handed, and I would teach myself left-handed stitching so I could teach her. Well, that's a brilliant idea, because it is different, isn't it? There was one lady who in Australia who I think she published a how-to dictionary for left-handers. Have I got that wrong? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? I seem to remember that about 10, 15 years ago. I'm learning to love, and I'm not sure what the rest of that message is, but I hate to click on it because it might disturb my whole live thing. So Mary, I'm going to read it later, okay? Lisa says, I agree. Picots are the ones that I avoid too. Mary Widrovitz says, specialty stitches is a nice break from cross stitch. Exactly. So some people like to do more cross stitch because it's more meditative. You don't have to think so hard. Just get the right colors and you just stitch and stitch. And some people are challenged by stitches to such an extent they prefer to do the sampler stitches or hardanger over cross stitch. So either way, as long as you include other stitches in your life besides crosses, you actually get so much more benefit, and your brain does too. Something about that. I think it keeps your brain from atrophying. Norma, you're here. Better late than not, right? Exactly. And also, I'm here and I'm talking away about sampler stitching like it's no tomorrow. I forgot actually that I have some other things to show you. I have to show you these things for sure, but I'm so interested in what you all have to say. So I'll just keep going for just a little longer with all these answers. I love sampler stitches because you get to learn so many new ones. If I don't like one, I know I won't have to do it for a long time. You're right, and I'll be done, but I will learn something new. Learning something new is what our brains thrive on. So Janet, I think that's a really good comment, and I also really love learning new things. In particular, in my chosen, not just profession, but in my passion. And I agree with you. And that kind of goes for life too, doesn't it? Rachel says, I tried to do a hardanger project and I have done a cross stitch one at the same time. Spelling each other off. Good idea. And Rita says, I love specialty stitches and I have taught for our EGA chapter. Oh, you have? I mostly do needlepoint and good work. But Marty taught me into going when you taught in Minneapolis, and I'm a big fan of your designs. Rita, thank you. Your compliment really made my day today. I don't know why. It just hit me at the right time. Thank you very much. You and Marty, you're awesome. Rachel says, EGA, that's the Embroiderers Guild of America. Carol says, great idea. Exactly. I think that was a great idea too. I like sample stitches for the variety. Teaching is difficult, but it can be satisfying. Yeah, I think that when you're teaching, you're not just teaching your subject. And when you're teaching, you have to get to know the person you're teaching. There is a person there, not just a repository for all your information, but a person with their own likes, their own dislikes, and their own font of information that they already have. You need to respect that person, but also tease out their confidence. There's a lot to teaching that is subtle and that is not just, imparting information. So that's the part that I think is the most fascinating, is how do we open up a world for another person to take advantage of, because it's them that are learning, not you teaching. They're picking up what you have to offer. And I think that's one of the things that I found really important when I started teaching. I used to think that I, knew some stuff, and then I tell people and then they pick it up. Not so fast. What really happens is I know some stuff, love it, share that love with someone else, and they want to do it, and then they ask me. And teaching from that point of view has become really a passion of mine now. Donna says, Embroidery Guild of America, absolutely. I help teach an embroidery outreach program for my EGA Guild. Thank you, Kathy. That is really good of you to do, because sharing our needlework with people is so important. Thanks, June. Of course I know you love specialty stitches. You're the student from way back. June Bull and I have known each other since, I don't know, 1993 or something. You were always in my class. My first classes at Fancy Works, a little needlework store in town at the time. Norma Farrow with Picos. They are Picos, Thea. Thank you. I'm sorry. You can tell that actually I am way behind in reading all these comments, and I think I'm going to end up having to let some go. I'm chatting with you all, and obviously I'm going to have to read them a little bit later because it's already 10:15. I haven't even started showing you anything yet. This weekend, my daughter Petra is going to be releasing, because I'm not in charge of these things anymore. So, okay, so it's all up to her. She is recognizing the Memorial Day weekend for our friends in the United States, and with all the troubles that are there, we want to share with you the 5 leaflets that contain the Hearts of America as downloadable PDFs. So that's what's on for this weekend. And I have a few here. Actually, I should turn on my little light here because I got extra light now. You should see my setup. It looks really good. So some of them are, there's one here for Utah, and that might be of interest. So you can see this is one of Utah, and there's the short trame stitch in this one, which is right here. Right there is the short trame stitch. So what's so interesting about all these Hearts of America is that the Hearts of America all have a specialty stitch in them. Not necessarily, an Oklahoma specialty stitch, but for instance, this one for Oklahoma is the Leviathan Eyelet Stitch. I mean, isn't that a cool stitch name? Leviathan? What was it again? Leviathan Eyelet Stitch. There's so many different stitches, and I put some in, or one, in each one of the Hearts of America. So there is one for New Mexico, and they are called the Woven Cross Stitch. And then down here is Arizona with the Jerusalem Cross Stitch, which might be interesting to you, Rachel. The neat thing about these Hearts of America, by the way, also is that each one of them is exactly the same size. So you can use it, for instance, to do those kinds of wall hangings. You see those ones right there? I think they're about the same size. So you can make a long strip with the states that you have visited. Or I've heard some people making quilts of all 50 hearts, which would be a really awesome thing to be able to create if you're an American and you are proud of all the states and you are globally aware of all of the states. Then it could look really good as a wall hanging, large wall hanging, or a quilt of some sort. And also, what's also interesting about these is that the specialty stitches that are in these right here are quite unique. They're not the ones that you could find in our Beyond Cross Stitch. I mean, there will be some in Beyond Cross Stitch, but these ones are quite different. The darning pattern stitch, for instance, is not in Beyond Cross Stitch. So many of the specialty stitches, the pineapple stitch, isn't that a good one for Hawaii? And also in each one is the state flower, the state bird. What else is there? And then something about the state, like the one for Alaska. There's an iceberg there, or what do you call it? One of those calving things. My brain, 71 years old, still can't remember everything. Idaho, Wyoming. Does anyone have a special one that they'd like me to show? This one's got the sorbello stitch in it. This one has got the Bosnia stitch. which is quite a simple stitch, but it's really cute and effective. If anyone has, I'm going to go scroll down past all of the things about talking about picots. I'm going to go right down to the bottom and see. Oh, here you are. Hopefully soon we'll have the 51st state. Which is the 51st state? I didn't know there was one. Is that going to be Puerto Rico or Glacier? Thank you, Lisbeth. I'm so glad there's someone here to remind me of these words I keep forgetting. For one exchange, I made a two-sided hanging with the California heart on one side and the Ontario heart on the other. Exactly. And then if you have a friend who lives in another country or in another state, you can create both of them and send that present to her as, or him, as a reminder of your love for each other and your friendship. Serena says Maine. Okay, I'm gonna check. And Colorado. Oh boy. Okay, let's see. Rhode Island, Tennessee. Let's see. Okay, I know I can do this. It just may take a while to find them all. Let's see. This is the Mississippi. So this is New York and Idaho. Okay, I have to find Maine and New York. I know I found New York here earlier. So I'm going to try, okay? I don't know if I can find them so quickly. Washington, Montana. Was there one in Montana? No. Pennsylvania. Okay, New York. Okay, here's one for New York. There we go. This one has got the Sprat's head stitch. Love this stitch. You know what a Sprat's head is? It's a tailor's triangle that they use at the top of any of the seams that they're making that they want to make very secure. So it's called a Sprat's head. Connecticut. See, there's so many of you that want yours up here. Rhode Island. Did somebody say Rhode Island? I think you did. Oh, no, it was Maine. Okay. Vermont. No. Louisiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, and Mississippi. Okay, that was in Hearts of America too. All of those were in Hearts of America too, okay? Now here's one for New Jersey, which I haven't heard yet. And Delaware, Pennsylvania, got that one. That's this one. So this one is the Victoria stitch. Well, that's kind of, it's not about Victoria Sampler, okay? It is called the Victoria stitch. This Pennsylvania with the broken bell, I think that's called the Liberty Bell. This is really cute. Connecticut, I have one here, Connecticut. There we go. This has got the plated surface stitch. Ooh, look at that one. Love that one. I think you'd like it too. Massachusetts, okay. Maryland, South Carolina, Connecticut we did. I'm sorry, I can't keep up with you guys, but you know, so far I'm having a great time trying to find them all. Oh, by the way, I love the California one also. This is for Donna, because I know she's down there with the long stitch. And we got one for Oregon, Colorado. There was one for Colorado for Mary. There we go. Is this the right one? Yes. Look at how pretty this one is. It's the Dutch stitch. And it's got the Rocky Mountain Columbine. Nothing without Providence is the motto. Oh, there's all sorts of things about these hearts that is cute and interesting. And each one of them is in a leaflet like this. And Petra will send out a notification a little later on this morning, or maybe on this afternoon, early this afternoon. She said she's almost got it all done. Oh, look, I found Maine. There is the diagonal queen stitch. Look at that one. That's quite different. Sorry, I'm holding it and I'm trying very hard to keep it in focus. The white pine is your flower, apparently. Anyway, she's going to send these out as PDFs, so you'll be able to go and find them and get them. I think somebody is here is from Iowa. Yes? So cute. The birds are always one of my favorite things to do. I love those birds. And anyone else? Good work. Gold work, not good work. Oh, okay. I was curious about that, Rita. Thank you. It's fun to see the light bulb go off when something new clicks for someone. That's one of my favorite feelings for them. And also, you're right. It's an echo inside yourself. Kathy Joan is in California. Okay. Washington, D.C. is hoping to become a state so they can have representation in Congress. Oh, I see. I did not know that. I think there was one here for Washington State, but it's not in any of the, Washington, D.C., but it's not in any of our leaflets yet. Mary Hawthorne says, thank you. Beautiful hearts. Love the hearts. Thank you very much, you guys. And thanks for asking for which ones. I didn't get to all, but I tried. And because it's Memorial Day, it's not necessarily about the America or United States, but what it is, Memorial Day, is to remember people. And I have got two rather, well, actually one in particular that's about memory. Someone has passed away, someone has had problems, and you no longer can see them. This is a sampler that I did way back when, and it was for my grandmother because she passed away and I loved that woman so much. And I call this is a small version of it. It's called Heirloom Memories. It's not going to be on sale. It's not a PDF or anything yet that I know of, although it might be. You can check Heirloom Memories. And this is the smaller version of it. And it says, remember, although we're far apart, you're still in my heart. This is my favorite version of that pattern. And it has flowers that are actually meant for remembering. Each one of these flowers means something. Forget-me-nots are in there. Specific flowers that are for remembering. And of course, there's a lot of beautiful specialty stitches that you can see. This is really a sampler of specialty stitches, rather than necessarily one for cross stitch. In fact, I don't see any cross stitch in this one. And this is one of my favorite ones. I have it hanging on my wall upstairs in my home because it reminds me of, and near a picture of my grandmother. So I love this one. And that might be something very nice for you to think about when you're remembering a fallen hero or something to do with Memorial Day. Okay. Oh, thank you, Petra. That's very nice of you. I appreciate you popping that up. And finally, I also want to thank you all for not just for joining me, but for stitching on the Stitch Along. Yes, really good work. This week, I'm going to upload one, as you all know. It is called Stay Home and Stitch, right? So underneath the little cat part is now a vine and 2 specialty stitches, and then the words and stitch with the heart. So I think you'll recognize the whole piece. Starts like this, stay home, and then, there's the house at the top, then stay home, then the part with the cat, and this is the new part right down here. Okay? So that's what it's going to look like. I really hope you enjoy this next part. And next week will be the finale part. The part that has quite a bit more stitching in it, and hopefully we'll bring it all together for you at the bottom of the piece. Thank you so much for joining. I know I have been a little longer than usual, and thank you for staying with me, or those of you who've stayed with me. And I'm going to see you all next week. I'm going to end the live video right now, and I will see you with Lisa next week because she's coming back to work. Thank you, Petra, for joining in and for being part of and for sending out the notification about the Hearts of America leaflets, that they're going to be downloadable. And thank you, Lisa, for popping in. And thanks to all of you for commenting and making this a most exciting sampler stitching Facebook Friday. Thanks again. Have fun and enjoy your weekend. Don't forget to stitch.